Hola, bienvenidos a Autana Amplify. Mi nombre es César Hernández, soy el CTO de Autana y vamos a estar conversando con Irina Rosenblit. Ella es la Senior Director Partner para las Américas de Hotspot. En la conversación de hoy vamos a estar hablando sobre cómo construir un programa de partners, qué cosas debo tener en cuenta, cuáles son las mejores prácticas. Y como siempre, no podemos dejar por fuera a la inteligencia artificial. Te veo en esta conversación. Irina, welcome to Autana Amplify. We're really happy to have you here. For you, for everyone listening, Irina is the Senior Director of Partner Development in Hotspot, and we're really happy to have her today.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here.
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about you before we start. I was impressed to kind of know that you work in customer success for a while, and now you're working with partners. That's great. I was also surprised to see that you even work as co-producer in dancing, which is great because for me personally, I work for a lot of year in a theater. So I work with a lot of productions in Venezuela. So I was really excited to see that. It's kind of great to know a little bit more about your background.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. After I graduated university, I was trying to get as much experience as I could, right, and kind of learn new skills. And dance has always been a big passion of mine. It's been a big part of my life when I was a child and then even in university. And so there was a big local dance community in Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's also associated with Boston, Massachusetts. And they gave kind of really anyone the opportunity to learn how to produce a show. And so a friend of mine and I were really interested. And so we got to put on a small concert. And so we got to do all sorts of things, like we got to book the talent. We had to manage all of the talent, all of the marketing. We had to sell ads to make sure that we had some sort of profitability for the show because it's expensive to put on. We had
Yeah,
to manage all the other vendors, the lights, the supporting staff. We sold tickets. I mean, it was obviously this was completely for free. We didn't earn
of course.
anything, but it was a lot of really valuable skills that, someone who was so early in their career, I got to learn in a very short period of time. So it's a
Yeah,
very fond memory I have.
and it's impressive how much of business you learn through the show business. Because as you said, usually in productions, especially if they're small productions, you have to do everything. You have to do marketing, you have to do sales. So I'm always happy to kind of talk to people that has been part of productions because uh, y- it's incredible how much you can learn from
Mhm.
uh, kind of those endeavors. So
Yeah.
uh, I was happily impressed that you were there. Well, I want to kind of start with more of the business today and all the
Mhm.
things that we have been seeing and the fast changing that we have seen on the business landscape now. And I wanted to ask you, please tell me more about your experience, but now more close to the partner ecosystem and the companies that you work with. Tell me a little bit more about that.
I've had the pleasure of working at HubSpot for a long time. It's been over 10 years. And so I got to be part of a very unique and really cool journey as the company kind of evolved alongside, I think, the larger tech evolution, right? Kind of tech, what it was in the 90s compared to what it was in the early 2000s and what it's grown into today has really like transformed very dramatically. And so just working at HubSpot for this long, I've really got to be part of that. And I've really, really enjoyed that. And then one other part of my job that's so cool is I work with partners. And so at HubSpot, our solutions partner program, is essentially exactly as it sounds. We work with solutions providers who are an extension of our brand. So solutions partners are other companies who are incredible with their knowledge of the HubSpot platform and software. And so they can do incredible things on behalf of other businesses to help them transform their adoption of CRM, of marketing, of service, AI, of all sorts of things. And so I love working with our solutions partners because they are always at the cutting edge. They are learning new things faster than everyone else. They are breaking HubSpot. They are pushing it to its limit in terms of what it's capable. They're constantly influencing how the product evolves. And they're small businesses and they are so nimble and fresh with ideas, and being a part of their growth is so rewarding. So I have been on this journey for a long time and I am not ready to give it up anytime soon. I absolutely love it.
That's great. That's great. And I mean, being on the other end, being a partner, but also working with other partners, I think that one of the things that amaze me is how you can get to work with different companies, different industries, and then see how, as companies get mature in the market, they start to specialize. And then you can see how that evolution translating to knowing industries better and knowing use case better. And then, as you said, applying the technology to go all the way into pushing the boundaries for a specific use case or in a specific industry. And that's always something that I appreciate of being part of the ecosystem. And with that, I want to ask you, what do you think is key? What are those best practices about building a partner program or a partner ecosystem like the ones that you have?
This is a very good question. I think a lot of companies, right, especially a lot of bigger companies that particularly sell in the tech space, that sell software, and others as well. It's not unique to tech, but they tend to obsess about their ideal customer. Who are we building this for? Who is going to use this? What value does this bring to them? And they obsess about it. Who is our ideal customer? What makes them happy? What makes them successful? But a lot of times they don't obsess in the same way about the partner, right? And so they will take partnership opportunities or even build a program to kind of just drive a goal. Maybe it's, driving revenue or driving servicing or something else, but they don't obsess about the partner as much as they do about the customer. And so I think it's incredibly important to understand who is your ideal partner, because you can't build a program if you don't understand who best fits everything that you want to do and everything that you want to accomplish. And if you don't align on that, you're just going to have a lot of businesses come your way, and you'll essentially have almost partnerships of opportunity. Like when it works, but when it doesn't, it's not a priority. And then you're not really partners. You're not really aligned on common goals. You don't have similar desires. You don't have similar objectives. And that's a problem, because you can't force other companies to do what you want them to do. They're not employees. And so you have to really obsess about who is the right partner for you, and then build the program around that. So if this is who the right partner is, how do we work together? What are the common goals that we share? What does success look like if we are going to go on this journey together? And then once you understand that, you have to tell the partners. You have to be transparent and clear. I think, that helps. What we talk a lot about, like clarity is kindness from like an
Yeah.
employee point of view. But I think it actually applies in everything, right? Being clear with what you want and what you're trying to achieve helps other people help you achieve that. So I think those are really simple concepts, but I found that if you overlook them, you're actually going to really struggle, no matter how good your benefits are or anything else that you may create in the program.
And in a way, you could argue that partners are also one of your customers. They in a way, are building a relationship with you and with your technology. And as you said, clarity and honesty is one of the foundation of any relationship. So I completely agree that those are things that you need to constantly be looking for. I think the next question is a tricky question because as we're talking about building relationships, characters are also very not alike. And us humans are also influenced by our culture, the way we relate to each other. So all of this is to say, what are the main difference between the US, which is a market that you live in, breathe in, work with,
Mhm.
and Latin America, which is kind of a completely different market, completely different culture? And what are the things that for you stand out?
Yeah, this for me has definitely been a learning journey. As you said, I live in the United States. I've lived in the United States for the majority of my life, definitely my entire professional life. And the team that I lead is oversees the U.S., Canada, and all of Latin America and Brazil. And I a lot of times people will ask something similar. What's the main difference between doing business or partnerships in the U.S. versus LATAM? And I think what I've actually learned is that you can't really make assumptions about anybody. You never know, right? A company could be based in the US, but they could be an international company and they could have a huge presence in LATAM. And if you don't find that out, you might approach them incorrectly in terms of working together, or the other way around, right? And then the other thing is LATAM is a big place. Everyone kind of lumps it together, but doing business in one country is not the same as doing business in another country. And what's really critical about, an end of year may be very different depending on kind of like end of quarter, end of year, how the fiscal cycle works. So it's really kind of important to understand that. I would say, right, more generally speaking, in Latin America, the relationship is very critical, right? And kind of, even when I recently visited the office in Bogota, I got to see just how much people go out of their way to interact with one another, even if they're just saying hello for 2 minutes, right? There's nothing happening necessarily from a transaction, but you never, ever neglect to say hello. It is
Yeah.
incredibly important to acknowledge someone, to say hi, to ask them how they're doing. And it's not that that doesn't happen in the US, but I don't think it happens in the same way. And so kind of observing these really small things, I think could easily set a meeting off in the wrong way, right? It's a bad start. And once it's a bad start, it's a bad first impression. And then now you don't have the trust of whomever it is that you're talking to. So I think being aware of these things is really important. On the US side, one thing that we're seeing, which I think is more recent, is that with everything that's been happening in the economy, companies tend to be making decisions, especially purchasing decisions, by consensus. And so no one wants to be the sole decision maker on a big investment. And so you have to convince a lot of people. And all of those people have a different point of view, something that they care about. And so I think I'm seeing that happen in the US, and I'm curious to see if that'll spread to Canada, to Latin America, to Brazil, and to the rest of the world, because it's something we really started to notice in the US.
I do like that similarities, but also singularities. And in this era where we're trying to personalize and be specific on everything that we do, personalized marketing, personalized experiences, you considering that personalization as part of your partner program, I think it's important. Not assuming that you're going to be like the other person just because you belong to a region. I think that's key. That's something that even in the personal life, we also need to try to do just to be better humans. And when you design a partner program and going back to kind of building that relationship, what are the key elements that you keep in mind?
Yeah, I think there are many companies that offer partnerships, right? No two partnerships are the same. Obviously, a company like HubSpot or something similar is going to design the program to benefit something that they're trying to accomplish, right? So, what is the goal? What metric are we trying to improve? What KPI are we trying to improve? And how would a partner program support that? But you have to make the partnership worthwhile for your partners. And I think making sure that there's a balance between what you require of your partners and how you define success, mutual success, and the benefits that you provide, they have to be of equal value, right? And so you have to be a program that companies want to be part of, that has, is profitable, is easy to work in. All of these things really matter because everyone has choices. Everyone has options. You can't act like you're the only player in the space.
That's awesome. And I think that those are elements that for sure someone that it's in your role needs to be constantly considering. So thank you. I like the way you think about that. I have a couple more questions, and I know that we're short on time, but I want to ask you something that you should be talking about every day. But what do you think about generative AI and how that it's impacting not just in your role, but in your partners day to day?
I am trying right now to learn as much as I can about it, right? I think everyone has to. This is another transformation. I think, I mentioned like the 90s were one thing, the 2000s, and so on. And this is that next transformation. And if you're not learning about this, you're going to be left behind. I think this is really important to kind of understand. There are so many misconceptions about generative AI. And I think there's a lot of fear. And, AI requires oversight. It requires an ethical oversight. I think that's incredibly important. And so you have to trust or feel good about whatever tools that you use, right? And kind of do your research to make sure that the tools that you're using, you feel good about it, that they have the disclosures, if you will. But in terms of what am I doing? I mean, I'll give you this like really simple example. I sometimes can spend a lot of time in spreadsheets as someone working in a business. I have to figure something out, make sense of data, whatever it is. And a lot of times I used to spend hours trying to figure out why my formula was broken. Hours, days even, depending on what was going on. And I would get so stressed out. And now I can ask, whether it's upload my spreadsheet to a GPT and have it like essentially tell me what's wrong and how to fix my formula. Or ask, what is the formula that helps me do X, Y, and Z? That is an immense amount of time and stress saved. And it's a very simple use case. I'm not creating anything in terms of content or video or anything like that. I'm just solving a problem, doing some data analysis. But that is transformative, I think, for people in terms of time and stress. And so it's like little things that I think can really improve your day-to-day that you shouldn't overlook.
You mentioned something that I don't want to let slide. I don't want to miss, but it is important. What do you think is a myth or a fear among your partners? And what are they not understanding about the benefits of using AI?
Yeah, I think it depends on, right, what you specialize in. If you have been a marketing agency for a long time, AI can feel like, well, I charge for the time to create your content. I charge for the brand. I charge for the PR. I charge for all of these things. Is AI going to replace that? I think that's the immediate assumption. And I would challenge those who feel that way to try it, because AI, while incredibly powerful, lacks human creativity, right? It lacks true agency. And so it can help you build those things. It can help you build campaigns, create content, manage them, make sure that the language you're using is similar throughout the campaign. But it isn't, you are the human. You have all of the creativity, right? And I think that's so important for people to grasp, even with, if you focus on CRM, I think that's another really interesting use case, like call summaries, co-pilots, agents. Like there's so much more now that can augment selling and kind of managing databases and the pipeline and all of these things. And again, focus on these things, bring the clarity, help people figure out how to use them, to make them more effective, to help with the bottom line, to help drive more revenue, to help manage the database, to make sure that the database is useful, because bad data harms everyone. So there's so much opportunity, actually. It's not replacing the services that you offer, it's changing them. And you have to figure out what that means now and how to lean into that as opposed to running away from it.
And I love that you said how it helped you augment your work. We have been talking about amplifying your productivity. And I think that that's one of the things that it's a difficult concept to understand, but when you start applying it, it's so much more benefit to kind of have someone help you solve a task that before took you 3 hours or as you were saying, a day, and now it will take you minutes, and increase your opportunity of producing more, and as you said, increasing your bottom line. My final question, and I always try to finish with this question because it's a glance on what's coming.
Mm.
So from your point of view, what do you think is the future of generative AI, and how would that impact your role and the partner program?
The first part is not so much the future, but more maybe the present and the very near future.
Yeah.
But in order for AI to work and be accurate, the underlying data has to be clean. And I think that
Absolutely.
partners have to help companies clean their data, right? And make it usable so that all of their AI tools are as accurate as possible. Because if the data is bad, the accuracy of your tools will be bad. So I don't think that's far in the future. I think that's kind of the right now. But it's really important to say.
By the way, before you say part two, I always tell this, but the future in AI, it's like the next 90 days. That's how fast everything is changing. It's like, yeah, we talk about the future and it's 2 weeks from now, we're going to see something new coming.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of my immediate reaction. And then I think the second thing is I predict a world, right, where human connection becomes incredibly valuable because of what AI can transform. So whether it's through agents, whether it's, through deflected chat interactions, all of these things that AI essentially can augment and improve and kind of create efficiency through. But that'll then put a whole different level of value on human time, humans spent together at a conference, at a user group, working together to think about what's next and learning together and spending time together. So I am curious. I'm just so fascinated and curious as to how this will, both of these things will coexist, and how kind of what can be done in the agent virtual world, and where humans are going to say, absolutely not. This we have to do live, in person, together. And I'm really excited for that. I think that's going to be really cool.
I love it. Thank you. It's great hearing that, and kind of going back to what we talk about us in Latin America, human connection for us is really important. So I love that you described the future in something that it's so important for us. It was a pleasure, Irina, having you here with us. Thank you very much. This was a great conversation, and I'm glad that we have it.
Me too. This was amazing. Thank you so much for having me.